Peace, y'all. So I wanted to give you like a layman's term breakdown of what's going on with AMC stock and GameStop. I know a lot of us are new to stock market investing, and you hear a lot of stuff about, you know, HODL, how to hold on for dear life, and everybody's like, you know, the apes, and everybody hold, and you're probably wondering why they're telling you to hold your stock, and you hear a lot about apes, and you're hearing a lot about short squeezes. So let me start by explaining to you what a short squeeze is. Well, basically what a short seller is. A short seller is a person who borrows shares of stock and he sells them at a price with the hopes of the value of those shares going down so that he can buy them back cheaper and return it to where he borrowed them from. So it's like if I borrow a gold necklace from you, and it's worth $10,000 right now in the market. I say, let me borrow this gold necklace. I'm gonna put up 10 grand right here, right now, just to show you that I'm good for it. I'd borrow your necklace. I sell it for 10 grand, right? And a month later, it's, you know, it's devalued. Some news comes out that says, oh, the price of gold is not worth anything right now. It's tanking. It's horrible. Whatever. So now your gold necklace that was worth $10,000 is now worth $5,000. Well, I'm gonna buy that gold necklace. I'm gonna buy it back for $5,000. I'm gonna give it back to you. And I just kept the $5,000 in between. I sold it for 10, and I bought it back for 5, and I gave it back to you. So I just made 5 grand off of your necklace. That's basically what short selling is. Now, short selling is supposed to be that you do your due diligence on a company, and when it is your reasonable belief that the value of those shares will go down, you will borrow those stock, you know, with the anticipation of the value going down. And then when it goes down, you make some nice profit and you give it back, right? That's what short selling is supposed to be. But short selling has become borrowing shares for the purpose of tanking the value of certain stock, which means you're trying to sabotage certain companies and destroy them in order for you to make money. Example, GameStop. GameStop, it's one of the companies that has been like under attack from short sellers for a while. And that's just something that happens. So if you notice, like GameStop, AMC, a lot of these companies over the past year or so, you would hear like some good news that comes out about the company, right? So normally you would think that the value of the shares would go up, but then surprisingly, like just the stock value goes down. Then some hit piece comes out, and everything just goes down. Every time there's good news about a company, it's always immediately followed by some crazy story. And a good example is the Hindenburg piece that was used to basically tank Nikola stock and just destroy the whole company, right? Nikola was trading somewhere like $60 at the time, or 50 something dollars, and the Hindenburg came out with a piece and the stock price tanked to like $12, right? So imagine now, Hindenburg is a notorious short seller. They're short sellers, right? So, and they have to reveal that information when they put out these reports and these articles and these hit pieces. So we know they have a vested interest in the value of the company tanking. So a reasonable person would question the legitimacy of some of the allegations of some of these, you know, these short sellers, because we know they have an interest in the value of that company going down. So if a company's going through, like, the prices are surging, everything is great, it's real high, a short seller is going to come in and say, "Ooh, man, that thing is trading at an all-time high. You know what? The share price is trading at $100. Let me let me borrow 1,000 of those, right? Let me borrow 1,000 of those $100 shares. And I'm going to put out an article, a hit piece on the company. So they borrow all of those shares. I forgot what, I don't even remember what I just said. I think they said what I think it was traded at 100, right? And they borrowed the shares for, how much did I say? Did they borrow 1,000? I don't remember. But I'll keep it simple. They borrowed $10,000 worth of the shares. And no, they borrowed $1 million worth of the shares. And they sold it for $1 million. They put out a hit piece, and now those shares, it dropped from $1 million being worth $1 million. It's now worth $50,000. Right? That's kind of like what they did with Nikola. So guess what happened? The $950,000 difference they got to keep. Now, what short sellers have been doing is they keep doubling down on these companies. Like, let's say they'll put out a hit piece, or they'll do certain things. And it's not just hit pieces. And just so you know, the mainstream media is in on this. Like Market Watch and CNBC and a lot of these other mainstream media news outlets that you see, they're in on this because this is hedge funds, this is billionaires, this is the mainstream media, this is the corporate establishment. This is just what they do. They make money off of tanking companies that you believe in and taking your money because it's your money that they're taking. All right? So now let's say a company like GameStop. What led to that short squeeze was they were shorting that stock so much, right? Let's say there was just, I believe the short interest in it was just like ridiculous. Like they were shorting it so much that they were shorting shares that didn't even exist anymore. So they just kept adding on top of it, shorting. So just to continue to drive the price down as much as possible till you just destroy the company. The company's just into oblivion. It's just gone. So although they were making massive amounts of money, they weren't satisfied. They just weren't satisfied until they completely bled the entire company dry and took all of the money. So retail investors, quote unquote apes, they saw this. Now, GameStop is one of those companies that, you know, the younger generation, they love GameStop, the video games, this and that. We get it. But even bigger than believing in these companies like GameStop and AMC and even BlackBerry or whatever else they're shorting, people were tired of being victimized by short sellers where they invest their money into stocks that they believe in, companies they believe in. And as good news comes out, there's always something that goes on that makes the stock price tank. And come to find out, it's short sellers who have been sabotaging these companies to make you, the little guy, lose your money. And they've been doing this for decades. So this is now what led to the short squeeze. The people that were buying the stock were like, you know what? We're buying these stock and we're going to hold it. Now, why are they holding it? Now, remember that example I gave you of the gold necklaces? You borrow it and you sell it, and then you got to give it back. Remember, you borrow it, you sell it at a certain price high, and then you want it to go low so you can buy it back and give it back. So it's sell high, buy low. Just like how they tell you, buy low, sell high. Short sellers do the same thing. They just do it in reverse. So what happens now, if they sold your gold necklace, if I borrowed your gold necklace, I sold it for 100 grand, and I want it to go down to, let's say, 50 grand. But guess what? What happens if everyone that bought them, they're like, nah, we don't want to sell it for 100 grand. We think it's worth more than that. We think it's worth 500 grand. There's an expiration date on me borrowing your chain. And remember, I got collateral. I had to give you, what did I say, $100,000 as collateral to hold it. But what happens now? The value of your gold chain just went up. It's worth 500,000 now. I'm in the hole 400 grand right now. But I still got to buy it back to give you back what I borrowed from you. So I sold it for 100, but now I got to buy it back for 500. So with a short seller, we know how much money they can make, because they can make anywhere between the $100,000, you know, from there all the way down. So, you know, if they buy it for 100,000, and they drop the price all the way down to zero, they just made $100,000. But what happens when the value of your chain goes up? That's infinite. There are no limits to how high the value of your gold chain can be. So the losses of a short seller can be infinite. What if the chain is no longer worth 100? What if it's worth $1 million? Now he's in the hole for 900 grand. So it's in the short seller's best interest, right? This is what they do. Oh man, we got to come up with some tactics to get the value of that chain down. So he's going to contact all his rich buddies who do this short selling stuff, and they're going to put out some crazy articles. They're going to do a media campaign to try to convince you that this jewelry is worthless, in order to scare you into selling it. Now, when people start selling their chains, the value of that jewelry will go down, and now he can buy it back for a cheaper price to give it back to you. But what happens if everybody's like, nah, we don't believe you? Matter of fact, we think it's worth $2 million. Now me as a short seller, I got a decision to make. Am I gonna keep doubling down and trying to drag the value of your chain down, or am I just gonna take the L, buy it back, because I have to give you I got to give you your chain back? And if I'm not ready to give it back, guess what? I got to come up with more money, more collateral. Remember, I gave you 100 grand to secure that. But what happens when the price goes up to, say, 500,000? You now are going to say, ho, Tony, wait a minute. You only put up 100 grand. This thing is worth 500. I'm going to need you to put more collateral down on this to ensure that I'm going to be able to get my chain back. So now I got to come up with 400 grand. I got to come up with the money to cover that, and still hope that the value goes down. I'll get my money back, but this is just my collateral that I'm putting up. But I don't have infinite amounts of collateral. I don't have infinite money. So I really got to get that value of that chain to go down by any means necessary. So AMC apes are the people that I sold that chain to, and they found out that I'm trying to sabotage the value of what they bought. They're not going to sell me those chains back because they believe it's worth way more than that. So I have a decision to make. Either I better buy them back now, or I'm going to wait it out. But there's a time limit on short selling. So short sellers are in the position right now where they're reaching their time limit, and margin calls are coming. Because, like I said, remember when I said they've been so greedy that they've been selling shares so much, and they were making so much money, they were just like, man, listen, let me just sell some that don't even exist, because I'm going to make the money back anyway. Nobody's even going to figure it out. But what happens when the value doesn't go down and it goes up? You're going to have to come up with those shares. You're going to have to come up with that jewelry. All that jewelry that you sold, you still got to produce that jewelry for the people that you sold it to and the people that you borrowed it from. You now have to come up with that money. You got to come up with the money as collateral. You got to come up with the money to buy it back. And you got to make sure that you come up with that money to cover what you sold to those people that they don't have yet. Remember, they bought it from you, the transaction, but they didn't get it yet. What happens when there were only, let's say, 500 chains available in existence, but you went and sold 2,000 of them? That's the position that these hedge funds are in right now. They got so greedy that they have now found themselves in a position where they're going to have to pay up. And the one beautiful thing about the stock market is And this is why people are talking about a short squeeze. First, let me tell you what a short squeeze is. So when they're forced in, when I'm now as the person who bought the chains and I just can't take it anymore, I'm like, listen, I bought it for 100,000. Well, I borrowed it. I sold it for 100,000, but right now it's worth 500,000. The price keeps going up. The value keeps going up. You know what? I'm gonna have to take the loss. I'm just gonna buy it right now for 500,000. I'm gonna buy them back, right? And all the rest of the guys out there like me, they're gonna have to buy them back for 500,000. Oh my God, the price is going up. Okay, let me just buy it back at 600,000 before it goes any higher. So now that I'm forced to buy them back at this higher price, what am I doing? I'm further contributing to the value of that chain going up, because I now have to buy it back in order to save myself from more losses. And you guys, the apes, the AMC investors, the AMC traders, you guys are buying the stock as well. So what happens is there's this huge flood of people buying more and more. Prices going up because you believe that your stock that you're holding are valuable, right? So you're not going to sell it for cheap. You believe that the AMC stock that you bought for $10, you believe it's worth $300. You believe it's worth $500. And guess what? Those short sellers, they're going to have to pay you your price. You don't lose money until you sell your stock. So that's why they say hold. Because when you hold all those shares that you bought, when we know that there aren't enough shares for those short sellers to give back where they borrowed it from, they're going to have to pay you your price. You get it? And by them paying you your price, they contribute to the value continuing to skyrocket. That's what a short squeeze is. And that's why GameStop went from $6 to like $200, then to like $500, because when short sellers get greedy and it turns around on them, the loss potential is infinite. So it's in their best interest to buy back what they borrowed. So what are we seeing with AMC? We're seeing certain tactics that are being deployed by short sellers to continue to push the price down. Because you're like, well, why does the value keep going down? Well, let's go back to the jewelry example. Me and my buddies, this is what we do. We're jewelry guys. We buy the jewelry, we sell it high. I mean, we borrow the jewelry, we sell it high, we buy it back low. This is what we do. This is our practice. We've been doing this with thousands of gold chains, right? Now the value's going up. There's no way out for us, right? Wrong. We have money. We have resources. We have the media. So what are we doing? Okay, my friend Bob is over there. Hey, Bob, you got a whole bunch of, you got some shares. Like, you got some chains, right? I still got some chains. Why don't we do this? I'm going to sell you. How much did it was 100,000, right? Where's the stock price at now? 400,000 right now? Okay, well, listen. I'm going to sell you mine for 300,000. Then you sell it back to me for 300,000. Then I'm going to sell it back to you for 280,000. Then you're going to sell it back to me for 275,000. And then we're going to keep doing this back and forth until we get it down to 100,000. And then I'm going to sell it to you for 80,000. And then you're going to sell it to me for 75,000. And we're going to do it so much because we have so much money, right? We're going to do it at a very high rate, right? We're going to do it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So now with the market can see this. They can see these transactions. They're like, wait a minute. We thought the price is going up, but we see people selling it for cheaper. Oh no. Now, this is our high frequency trading back and forth to each other. We're doing it at such an exponential rate, at such a high speed that it looks like we are hundreds or even thousands of people selling our stock for cheaper, or selling your chains for cheaper. So people who see this now, oh my God, the value's dropping. And what do a lot of people do when they see the value of what they have, of their asset tanking? They sell it. They panic and they sell it. So me and Bob, we just tricked you. We just found a way to fool you. We scared you out of your jewelry. And you sold it back at a cheaper price, which puts it back in the market. So now we can get it back. We can buy it for cheaper than where it was, and we can return it. And so we will not be subject to a failure to deliver. meaning we have not delivered the assets we borrowed. Because if that happens, we got to come up with that bread. Now, the DTCC, oh man, I'm giving you all of these. All right, basically the regulatory body in the stock market is kind of next to this SEC. They kind of, but they're like the SEC in a way. They're overseen by the SEC, but they set the rules, right, for what's going on in the market. And they've been coming down with some rules because this practice that's been going on by the hedge funds who have all this money and who have been manipulating the market, the fact that the retail investors, us dummies out here, the fact that we have seen it, we've done our research, we understand what it is, and we've been complaining about it, and we've been raising awareness about it on social media, well, sooner or later, somebody's going to have to start paying attention. So the SEC, they are now involved, but don't think that they're your friend either. I mean, let's be real. What the hedge funds are doing is they're willing to risk tanking the entire market. Just honestly, it seems like for ego. They don't want to lose, because if they lose, they will lose they've already lost billions of dollars, but they will lose such a massive amount of money, and this will equate to probably like the largest transfer of wealth in history. And that transfer of wealth will be going from the 1% to the 99%. Just think about it. You buy your shares and you decide what it's worth to you. That's not market manipulation. Market manipulation is these hedge funds that are out here trying to fool you into believing that your shares are worthless. You're going to lose your money. The price is going to crash. Get out of here. But guess what? I don't care personally if AMC dips down to $10 tomorrow. You know why? Because I'm going to buy more. I'm going to buy the dip. And here's why. The float. All right, the float is the amount of shares that are out there. Right now, retail investors, the average guy, the little guys, the little girl like you and me, we now own, they say, about 81% of the float, which I think is bullshit. I think retail investors own between 85 to 90% of AMC stock right now. And if that is true, if you look at the volume, the trading volume on these days when the share price is tanking, it's usually low volume, right? One, that's telling us you guys are not selling, which is a good thing. You're holding. But still, the numbers don't add up. Because if you look at the trading volume that's going on in the day, it doesn't add up. Because if there are only 500 million AMC shares in existence, and we own, say, 490 million or something, whatever it is of those, or 450 million of those shares. If we own 450 million of the shares, there's not that many left. But if you look at the trading volume, you're going to see like 175. Like, what's going on here? We're seeing more shares being traded than are supposed to exist. What does that mean? There are a hell of a lot of synthetic shares in the market. That means there's been a lot of naked shorting going on. Naked shorting meaning that they have been selling stock that do not exist. And they are now in a position where they are going to have to cover those stock. They're going to have to cover it with money, moolah. So that's why you see them working so hard to drive down the value of the stock. That's why you'll see people like Cramer get on his platform and castigate all retail investors and say how dumb you are and you better get out now and blah, blah, blah. That's why every article you've seen about AMC has been negative, doom and gloom. And I think that the apes have caught on to that. Obviously, we caught on to it. But when the media, when that tactic doesn't work, what does the media do? They start feeding you, oh, here's the next meme stock that's taking off. This is what everyone's talking about now. They're trying to distract you from the mother of all short squeezes, which is AMC. So don't think that it's beyond them to get infiltrators to go into these Reddit groups and pretend to be apes and say, yeah, we got to sell. Or yeah, oh, look at this one over here. Look at Clove. Look at this stock over there. When the Clove quote unquote short squeeze came out and everybody was talking about Clove, it immediately my spidey senses went off, because this company just came out of nowhere and all of a sudden it's going up. What was it, like 50%, 100%? What? It's just like skyrocketing. And I'm like, bruh, that looks like the hedge funds trying to steer you in another direction, get you to stop paying attention to AMC, getting you to sell your money in AMC, because if you notice, AMC was tanking at the same time Clove was surging. I don't trust that shit. So when that happened, I immediately was like, okay, this is obviously, I mean, common sense tells you. I think Citadel actually like was one of the major players in that quote unquote squeeze. I think they bought the shit like real high and sold it. And I mean, come on, bro, they're orchestrating that. So what their goal was to distract all of you guys, have you run over there, take your money over there, right? They pump it. It's a pump and dump scam. They pump the price as high as it is. It gets you happy. It gets you excited. Everybody dumps their money in there, and then they crash it. And guess what happens? Guess who shorted it? Exactly. So all that money you made in AMC, you just gave it all right back in Clove. And they now have more money to put up as collateral or to cover their shorts. You understand? They're trying to play the long game. And they're trying to convince you that they have all these resources to wait you out with this Mexican standoff or whatever they want to call it. But we know the truth. Their money isn't infinite. And right now, when you have the DTC and the SEC getting involved, and even the Fed with the reverse repos that are coming, long story short, these hedge funds are going to have to come up with the money, plain and simple, because the banks are not going to take the risk anymore. The Fed is, no one's taking the risk. So they're going to have to take the risk. So it's in their best interest to do whatever they can to tank the share value of AMC now, because they're hitting a deadline of next week. This week, they've already changed one of the rules where they have to now source the shares that they borrow, meaning they got to have verified shares in existence before they can short it, because they've been naked shorting all of this time, pretending that shares that exist, but making money off of invisible shares. That stops, hopefully, because we know the DTC, are they going to enforce it? Hopefully they do, but we know this is the establishment, but we also know it's a dog-eat-dog establishment as well. So, but I do know one thing, they don't want you to win. They don't want you to get your money. They don't want you to be victorious in this, because once the apes get their come up, once the apes achieve this goal, once you, I don't want to say, well, basically, once you successfully execute this transfer of wealth in the right direction, this will set a precedent, and this will make things very scary for the establishment. It will make things very scary for these corporations, these hedge funds, the mainstream media, everyone who has basically been taking advantage of you for the longest and extracting all of your wealth. So for me, I don't give a shit how low AMC goes. I'm going to buy, because this is how I look at it. When they try to tank the stock, I'm thanking them, because they're just making it cheaper for me to buy more shares. Because pretty soon, the apes are going to hold all of the shares in AMC. So where are these short sellers going to go to get these shares to give back? Hold. I'm going to hold. I'm going to hold on for dear life. I hope this put things in a little bit better perspective. It's more of like just a regular regular dudes kind of conversation. I didn't want to get too heavy into certain things, but people are holding the stock because they believe that AMC is shares are worth way more than what they paid for it. So I say this: if you buy a stock at a certain price and you believe that it is worth more than that, don't sell it until you get what you believe it's worth. So if you bought the share, if you bought it for $50 and you believe that it's worth no less than $500 to you, then don't sell it until you get to $500. So just imagine what happens if everyone who owns AMC shares had that same mindset. Almost 90% of you guys own all the stock already. Hedge funds are trying to fool you. They're trying to trick you. They're trying to scare you into selling it as they tank the price. But they're not really tanking the price. One indicator is look at the trading volume. You'll know that retail investors are in there. They're inside their trading when you see the numbers at like 300, 400 million, 500 million. That's when you see it. But when you see the trading volume at 90 million halfway through the day and nobody's in there. That's the hedge funds. That's me and Bob going back and forth, selling it to each other, trying to trick you into thinking that the value has decreased. Okay? Now, we don't know when the squeeze is going to happen because these hedge funds are quite stubborn. And they got a lot of foolish pride. They don't want you to win. They're so used to winning and taking and extracting all of your wealth that this doesn't make any sense to them. They cannot fathom this. They're going to go down with the ship, or they're going to fight as hard as hell until the last minute. I just think that they have underestimated the resolve of the dumb retail investors like us. So let's prove them wrong. I'm going to prove them wrong at least. And I'm going to hold AMC to the moon. Peace.